Hi, welcome to my blog. My name is Tom Shue, and today I'm going to talk to you about color spaces and how they change when you work on your computer versus work on the internet. First of all, when we're working in Lightroom, we can hand files off to and fro from different editors, like Photoshop, for example. Look at our edit settings here. If we go to Preferences and click on External Handling, you'll see that it says Edit in Photoshop CS6. And the default color space for Lightroom is Pro Photo RGB. If you do a search on my blog about color space information, I explain to you why that using such a wide gamut for your images is probably not a good idea. But that's a different story. So, say if we change this drop down menu to sRGB, you'll see that it gives you a warning, and it's not really a warning, it just tells you that sRGB color space cannot encompass the full range of colors available in Lightroom, which means that Lightroom does work in a large, wide gamut, such as Pro Photo RGB. But when you're working with the internet, you're dealing with sRGB. It's a very narrow color space. Even Adobe RGB is too wide for the internet. Most of the browsers that you work within, like say Internet Explorer and Chrome, they're not color managed. So it doesn't read the color information anyway. It just takes whatever you give it and it displays it. Okay? So say for example you left it at Pro Photo RGB and we brought it into Photoshop for editing. I'm going to close this down. I want to first of all show you this image here. This is the raw image. This is the CR2 file, and this is a TIFF that I created earlier today. So what we'll do is I'm going to hit Control, and it's Control on Windows, Command on a Mac, E, which is the same as right-clicking and say Edit in Photoshop. Okay. So we're going to bring that into Photoshop. It'll take a few seconds to load up. There it is. So we have our image. And if we look at the image information, you'd expect to find out what color space it is. However, you don't. It just tells you the size of the image and what the resolution of it is and stuff like this. So if we were to save this image as a JPEG, it's going to try to embed that Pro Photo RGB color space onto the image, and when you upload it to the internet, you're going to see you have a problem. So we do File, Save As, and then we save it as a JPEG. First of all, let's put it in a different folder. Let's go to my libraries, and we'll go to Pictures, and we'll just save this as Test. Test, and we'll save it as this, which is going to be a JPEG. We'll save it. We'll save it for the maximum. Okay, so there it is. It saved it. Now, when we try to upload that image to the internet, this is what's going to happen. Let me back up a little bit here. This is what you'll see. A Pro Photo RGB color space where all of those colors fell out of the gamut of what's possible to be seen. That means all those rich colors, they're too wide for the internet's ability to display them. This is the color that we want to see right here. This is the color that we actually put up because we saved it in a Pro Photo space. Let's go back into Photoshop here for a minute. There's a couple ways you can do it. First, if you say Save As, and then I'm not going to save it as, we'll just call this Test again, JPEG. Click Save. It's going to say where I want it to be. Actually, it didn't do it in this option. When you save it for the first time, it will give you a profile or color space you want to save it in. Let's look over here and pull up a edit, and it's going to be Convert to Profile. This tells me what space we're in, the source space. This is the source image, so that's in a Pro Photo RGB space, and I can save it in any space that I want. It has all of these different color spaces, but we want to choose the sRGB space, the IE6196621 space. This is the space which the internet can read all of those colors. It doesn't fall outside of the gamut that this color space is, which is sRGB. So if we save that image and we upload that image to the internet, we get this image. all of the colors are a lot closer to the original files that we worked with. So let's cancel this. Another way you could do it is if you went in to save for web. Consider this save for web like Camera Raw, but for saving images to the internet. Yeah, this is what it was built for, and it's a really effective solution, especially if you want to resize and you want to save it for different formats and create a profile preset in order to one-click save everything. So first of all, let's resize this image down to where you can see what it is. And it looks a little grainy because it's emulating what's going to be on the internet. So here, if we look at this, we can say, first of all, we want to save it as a JPEG, and we can save it as PNGs and GIFs. We can change the quality. So if I want to drop the quality down to, say, 60% or 50%, if we're doing thumbnails and stuff, there's no sense in saving it as 100%. However, I'm going to leave it at 100. And it's got to re-render this file when you're working with it. And we can change it as maximum. And we can save it optimized. Now here, as far as the color conversion is concerned, I've got it selected to convert to sRGB. And we can save it as a couple times. We can save it for Macintosh or just internet standard RGB with no color management. This is the one that you want to work with. You can also strip your metadata. If you don't want all your camera information in there, all the Exif data that's got your file and stuff, you can just leave your copyright in, or you can strip it down to have nothing. Okay, and I'll show you that in just a second. Okay, and then I can save it as a size that I want. Instead of putting up a 3400 wide pixel image, I could save it as like 1100. And since this little constrained link is attached, it's just going to go ahead and change the other side to match. So we say 1100. So that gives us 1100 by 733. Okay, and I can even preview this image on the internet in my default browser. So if I click preview, I can see what it's going to look like on the internet. Let me pull this down so it's inside the space. So I know, see right here it says preview, browser preview. It's a temporary HTML file that Photoshop's created. And it even gives you the code down at the bottom of the page. It's kind of neat. You can use Photoshop to create web pages, in case you didn't know that. Let me zoom down. So there's the temporary information. Let's get back out of this. So we're going to click save, and we'll just call this test, and it's a JPEG, and we'll save it. It's already there, so we're just going to replace it. So now when I load it up on the internet, I paused and resized the frame so you could see it. So when I load it up on the internet, I'm going to get the same exact image that I previewed, and I know that the color is going to be right. I know a lot of my friends and a lot of people that I've talked to, they say when they upload their images to the internet, the color looks different. So let's look at the Exif data. This was the Pro Photo RGB space. If we look at the Exif information, it's going to tell me the lens, it's going to tell me a whole bunch of things. You know, the ISO, the aperture, it's going to give all my copyright information, lens, everything's in there. Let's back up and pull up the one that we rendered using the save for web, where we stripped out that Exif data. View Exif information, and here it doesn't have any of the camera information, it just has my copyright information. Okay, well, and last thing I want to show you is that if we save this, let's go ahead and put a change on this just for kicks. We're going to call this test. Okay, and this is actually still a TIFF image. It's the one that we brought in from Lightroom. If you hit Control on a Windows, Command on a Mac, S, or you click File, Save, not Save As, it will open it inside Lightroom as an edited TIFF. Okay, you just saw that, where it says TIFF. There's the original TIFF that I made, the one that I showed you earlier. This was the original raw image. So this is the third copy that I've made as a TIFF. So whatever changes I make inside Photoshop, it will save it into the file and automatically bring it back in to Lightroom. So I want to thank you all for visiting my blog today. My name is Tom Shue, and until next time, we'll see you soon.